Welcome to Fusion tonight. Are you ready to worship?
Yeah!
Tonight we have Jane Wyckoff stopping by. Our speaker is Jackie Bradford. Music by COVID Oswald. And now here's your host, Jon Cooper.
Welcome to Fusion tonight. I'm your host, Jon Cooper. How are we doing tonight? Woo! We got a nice crowd. We have a great show for you tonight. Before we get started, we got to talk about all this crazy stuff going on in the news, happening in the world around us. I don't know if you saw this. Taco Bell overtook Burger King as the number 4 largest food chain in America this week. Yes. They also overtook X-Lax as the number 1 option to cure constipation. Just climbing the polls. I saw this. I've had a lot of airline jokes this season, and I apologize if they go over your head. Yeah. But I saw this true story. A Dutch airline had to make an emergency landing after 2 passengers refused to stop fighting because one of the passengers kept farting during the entire flight.
You can't say that in church.
Yeah. The pilots hoped that by landing, everyone could get out and they could clear the air. And finally, in the political world, in a really unusual story, 6 different teenagers are running for the office of governor in Kansas after they found a loophole that there's no restrictions on who can get elected. Yeah. The teenagers figured if a child can run the country, surely they can run the state. I didn't know how that one was going to go over. Well, apparently. All right. Now that I have welcomed you with jokes, let us welcome God into our room tonight as we prepare to worship. Gracious and Holy Father, we're so blessed to be gathered in this space, to be gathered in this church, and to be gathered with all of these people in this room tonight. We ask that you provide the words for our guest and our speaker to give the message that you would like us to hear tonight. And Lord, as we deal with some not so welcome news in the world, as we deal with another school shooting down in Florida, and as we deal with strife all across our country and all across the world, all too often it seems as though this world has forgotten about you, and we ask that you not forget about us and help us to remember your love and your wisdom and to reach for you in times of trouble and to reach for you in all times as we worship so that we may do things better, we may be a light in this broken world. We ask for these things in your name. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get hyped. We have a great show for you tonight. Jane Wyckoff is going to be on the show tonight. And traveling all the way to be our main event speaker, our current District Superintendent, Jackie Bradford, is on the show tonight. Super exciting show. Another person on the show here every week. Please give it up for Mr. COVID Oswald. COVID Oswald, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why he's wearing shorts. Your legs are as white as the snow that's still on the ground outside. There is a lot of ice, yes. We are now going to move into our open mic time, and if you're more familiar with a more traditional style of worship, it looks a lot like joys and concerns. So this is your chance to lift up anything that's on your heart and your mind, anything at all. We do put the shows on YouTube, but this segment is not televised, so you don't have to worry if you don't want to share something with the whole world. If you want to just share it with the space, it will, whatever you say stays in this room with just this group of people. So with that, this is your time to lift up any prayers that you may have. Let us feel blessed by your daily and constant presence, and let us take that light that you shine on us every time we're looking for you, and let us shine that light on all those around us. Let us be a healing force in this broken world, and let us be a uniting force. Let us make heaven here on earth. Let us do your work every day. And as we ask for all of those things, let us do so praying the prayer that your Son, Jesus Christ, taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get hyped for our first guest. I'm so excited she agreed to be here tonight. Please give it up for one of the most popular people in this church, Miss Jane Wyckoff. Welcome to Fusion tonight, Jane. How do you like it?
Hi, John. I love it. This is great. Yeah.
You have to come back every week now.
Well, I'm usually in choir practice
You're
right now.
not anymore.
Not
You're
anymore.
Here.
Okay. Well.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
You sing like an angel. We
yeah.
need you in the choir.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be filled with people like me, and nobody wants that.
Okay. Okay, John. You can try it.
She hears me sing in the shower. It's not good.
Oh,
It's not-
really?
no, it's
Well,
terrible.
we could give it a shot if you wanted.
No,
No.
because that's bad, and we brought you here to talk about something that's good.
Great.
We brought you here because everyone says, oh, Jane does the thing with the roses. She does the roses. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I have no idea what that means. And I need you to explain to me what it is that you actually do. That's so wonderful.
Okay, well, each week we get 3 roses donated from Bancroft Florists, and those always sit on the altar at church, and I deliver those roses then to anyone that has a birthday that coming week that's going to be 80 or older. So I give them a single rose, and I take it to their home or wherever they live, and I knock on their door, and they're always happy to see me, and I can sit down and visit with them for a little bit if they want, and wish them a happy birthday and give them a birthday hug.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like the Bachelorette, like giving out roses.
Well, yeah.
Except like
right.
except it's real, and like we don't have to deal
It's
with the
real.
annoying crying.
That's
Like,
right.
yeah.
No crying. We've never had any crying. No.
That's awesome. That's such a wonderful, it seems like such a small gesture, but it can be so huge.
Right, and
So-
it is. It's a simple act of kindness, but it is great. Yeah. And
That's awesome. So how long have you been involved in this ministry and taking it upon yourself to make these deliveries?
well, maybe about 13 or 14 years. Yeah. And in the beginning, there were going to be 2 of us, but the other gal never did want to do it then after she signed up. So it was me.
Well,
So
that's,
I get to do it, and I usually do it on Sunday afternoons when I'm done with church, in the afternoons. Yeah.
awesome. So 13
Yeah.
years. That's amazing. And it's good that they didn't go with 2, because we watched them try to do The Bachelorette with 2.
Yeah, well, that-
It was pretty terrible.
that
It's
didn't work,
better
so-
with 1.
Okay, well, it's worked pretty good with
You
one,
are
so,
the one.
yeah. Okay.
That's awesome. So
But
it's in all seriousness, it's a wonderful ministry.
it is.
How do you feel connected to it spiritually and connected to God when you're out delivering the roses to these recipients?
Well, I do enjoy just, they're so appreciative of it, and they enjoy it so much, and I get just as much out of it as they do, and so it does make you feel good, and that they look forward to this. I delivered a couple roses 2 roses to a couple just not too long ago, and the wife said, oh, he's been looking out the window all afternoon for you, so, yeah, they love it. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Jane, I'm so glad that you are part of that ministry. I'm so glad that you're out there making people's day, and I'm glad that it fills you up too. We're just so thankful that you do it.
It does.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jane Wyckoff. All right, we are now going to move into our offering time. And I don't know, it's We Care. I almost forgot. We had a week off for Ash Wednesday. Almost forgot everything. It is, I think we only have 2 weeks left. So our offering goes to a specific cause every month, and this month is all about We Care. So it's all about providing supplies and baby supplies to parents that are struggling to make sure that the littlest among us have what they need. It's an absolutely wonderful cause. We have 2 giving jars on each side of the room. So as the offering song plays, it's your chance to stretch out. You can make a donation one of the jars during this time, or you can wait till after service, or you can lift up prayers. Whatever your heart calls you to give, this is your time for offering. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get hyped. We're here. The main event is here. She is your district superintendent. If I can tell anything from the conversation we had downstairs, she's a little sassy, but she's a lot of awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jackie Bradford. Welcome to the show, Jackie. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, doing very well, thank you.
Good. I'm so excited that you agreed to speak with us tonight because we have. Do you want better?
Yeah.
Just you and me right
That's
now.
right, that's right.
I'm
You
so
said sassy.
I've set myself up for a really hard time tonight, I think. I'm so excited because a lot of people don't know what being a district superintendent means, including myself. I just assume you're like the principal, and Steve and Matt are the kids that you have to have in your office all the time. So tell me, what does it mean to be a district superintendent? What are some of your responsibilities?
Well, I'm going to go back to the first comment because you might not know I spent 21 years in education before I became a pastor. So when you use that metaphor of principal and teacher, it resonates with me. So what are my responsibilities? I've been thinking because, I didn't have these questions. So I want everybody to think about a kaleidoscope tonight. When you look into a kaleidoscope and you turn those little gadgets around, you see a variety of things, and depending on how you turn it, your perception is different. So as a superintendent, I superintend this Northeast District, which makes up about 109 churches and all the clergy that serve those churches, and the congregations, 8,900 square miles. So that's my area. So supervising is one thing. As part of the appointive cabinet, working with Bishop Laurie, we are also the ones who discern and do the appointment making for the various churches as we call new pastors into congregations. I spend a lot of time out in the districts, working with relationships not only with clergy and laity, but also doing some teaching and leading. So it's a kaleidoscope in that whatever the season requires is what I'm called upon to do. So I'm a generalist in many ways, and do a variety of things, all related to being the United Methodist Church.
So you're a Jackie of all trades.
I am a Jackie of all trades. That's right. I am. Yes. And my friends call me Jack, so I really am a Jack of all trades. Yes, very much so.
Well, that's awesome. So that's a lot of responsibilities. A crazy lot. So how long have you been involved in the ministry? Not just being a superintendent, but just in ministry in general.
I've been 20 years in ministry, the last 7 as a district superintendent. So I spent 13 years serving congregations and then was called into the cabinet position. So 20 years in my second career.
Wow, that's outstanding. So you've just always kind of been in this role where you're educating, teaching, and standing up front saying, listen to me.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Now, I know I'm in school for lay ministry, so we get, just like a tiny sliver of an idea. I know you guys deal with conflict resolution, which is never easy. when you're dealing with churches, large and small. I don't know. Before asking, smaller or larger churches, when you have conflict, which do you think, in your opinion, is harder to resolve?
It really is the small church because it's basically a family unit. And if you think about holidays that you might dread when you gather all the family together, that's what a small church atmosphere is like when it comes to conflict, because everybody's related and everybody has an opinion, and there's those insiders, outsiders, you might call them in-laws, outlaws,
Yeah.
you know, that whole family configuration
Oh,
thing.
yeah. The
That's
kids
what it's-
table, the adult table.
That's right.
The we talk
And shall
politics,
not-
we talk
shall
about mac and
not
cheese. Yes.
cross over the line. That's right. That's right. Small churches definitely when it comes to conflict.
That's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to ask you. Because what I really want to ask you is, you deal with conflicts. You deal with appointments where people might not be happy that you're taking their pastor. You deal with churches that might not be happy with the pastor you're giving them.
That's right.
What is the hardest thing about being a district and superintendent? I know there's a lot of challenge, but is there anything off the top of your head that's just the most challenging that you deal with?
Expectations of everybody.
That's a short but really good answer.
It is. It's you have expectations at a conference level, a local church level, at the pastor level, at the laity level. How many of our members are in the congregation level? How many people are in the community that somehow relate to that local church? You've got government politics. You've got all of these things, and everybody has an expectation on you. That's the hardest part about being a superintendent.
So basically, short-term, people is the hardest part. Flawed children of Christ are very hard to navigate and deal with because we're all so unique and different and weird.
Well, I didn't quite say that. I just said expectations that these folks called children of God have upon the district superintendent.
That's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And 109 churches, 8,900 square miles, you have all these congregations. You're in charge of so much. How do you find time to get fed and to stay in touch with God so that you don't get too far away? How do you manage that so that you're still getting a chance to reflect and be with God and not always be in charge of stuff?
Well, one of my secrets long ago when I started was I found a spiritual director. So at least monthly, or sometimes twice a month, depending on what season of life I'm in the ministry, I visit with my own spiritual director about my relationship with God and where God's calling me. So that has been foundational. Because when I go into worship services, you get to worship a little bit, but because of people's expectations and questions as to why you're there, you really don't get to engage with God in worship as you would hope to be able to do. So that has been key to me. The other practice I have in all of these 7 years and all the miles I've traveled, I travel in silence. I never have the radio on. I don't listen to books. That's my time. That's my time.
Nice. That has to it just seems like it'd be just a nice moment of serenity to just kind of hear the road beneath the tires and just be.
Well, I don't think I focus on the road. I think I
You
look
should.
Well, let's say I focus on the road to see what's ahead. But as an Iowa farm girl, the creator in creation. And so as I go down the road and I look at creation and I see the life cycles and I see what's happening and homes that I pass many times and either have a connection to and offer a blessing as I go by those places or those churches or those communities, that's where I'm fed. And of course, the beautiful part of Cabinet is when we gather, we always worship together. And that is my community of worship where we all understand one another because of our role in what we do. So I make sure I have those places.
Well, good. I'm glad, because we worry about our leaders and whether or not you get a chance to reflect yourselves because we're so needy all of the time. So I'm glad that you do find time. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you, in June,
Yes.
Paul Wilcox will be appointed the new
Yes.
district superintendent. So what is next for Jackie Bradford? What is the next walk of life for you?
I'm returning to the local church, and I'll be pastoring Kenwood Park United Methodist Church in Cedar Rapids.
Awesome. That is really exciting. And do you plan on doing that up until the day that you retire, or you're just going to see what comes?
Well, retirement might be there. I do it like this. I am there until. As those who are under appointment, we do things 1 year at a time. And of course, life happens. And I'm at a season in my life that, I may take retirement, I may continue on. We'll see what God has in store. And right now, I'm just excited about going back to the local church and having a church family and to be focused and leave behind a lot of the extra responsibilities. There'll be new responsibilities, new opportunities, but it'll be a different life.
I shouldn't have said the last question, because there was one other question I did want to ask you, and we're early. Apparently we talk fast. We just covered a lot of ground super fast. We work well together, I think.
Okay,
We're going to have to hook up on more situations like this. But I did want to ask you, because we are going through Pastor Steve's retirement, we're getting Pastor Scott Kober as an appointment, so there is a lot of transitioning.
Yes.
And it's really easy for churches to get their feathers ruffled. Well, why are you taking my pastor? Well, why are you giving me this pastor? How do you go about making these appointments? What kind of process has to go into it to appoint pastors here and move pastors? If you can explain that, just so we kind of know how that kind of works.
Sure, I'd love to do that. If you think about your fall season, where we do charge conference paperwork, there is an opportunity for the SPRC of every local church to identify whether they'd like their pastor to stay, move on, or what we say they can't come to a consensus. So that's one piece of information we receive. In the fall, every pastor has a professional interview, and they have the same opportunity. So now we're up to 2 sources of information. The third becomes that of the district superintendent's input. There's sometimes reasons that you see that others may not see it's time to go, but because you're on the outside and you're observing and you're watching some other things, it's time for a new challenge for them because they've either plateaued or they've lost energy or the congregation needs some new voices. Through that process, we gather information from every local church. And when it comes to the time that we come around the cabinet table to look at what we call the big picture of the year, which ones have asked for a move, we have to include them on the list. Which churches have asked for their pastor to be moved, we put them on the list. What churches and pastors do the district superintendents believe need to be looked at more carefully? And the bishop will also have some suggestions because we're a church that's doing missional appointments. And as we look at our increasing number of persons retiring, less people coming into full-time ministry, we have to look at who's available and who can best fit the missional needs of every local church. You talked about small churches, large churches. I categorize them in those that are full of life and possibility and those that are just kind of hanging on. And so you have to use the best people in the best possible places. And so when we come together at the cabinet table, all under worship and calling on God to help us discern, we have a Surface, they call it. It's our laptop. And it has 750 pastors' profiles, church profiles, district superintendent minutes and notes from conversations. We have all of this wealth of information. And so, like when Cedar Falls First came on the board for their time of discernment, every district superintendent at the table had an opportunity to lift up names of persons they knew from their district that matched the needs here at Cedar Falls First. I also have that opportunity to do that. The bishop has that opportunity to do that. And when we have a retirement, it's a little different because persons who wanted to show interest in coming here had an opportunity last fall to self-identify. And so those folks are considered. We look at the profile of the church, we look at the names, and some look like, oh, that might be a good fit. So they stay on what we call our short list. We got some that might not work at all, and those names go away. And through prayerful discernment, we arrive at a name, and then everyone around the table, which includes 8 district superintendents, but ultimately the bishop, have to agree that the church profile, the gifts and graces of the pastor that's being asked to come there, is the best possible match we have that day for the coming year. So it's a long process, and we don't work on them one appointment at a time. because many pastors can serve many churches, and so we put similar churches together. So it's a long process, and it takes a lot of prayer, a lot of discernment, a lot of background work, and a lot of good questions to be asked of the colleagues, because you don't know everybody that's coming to the table.
So it's a well thought out process.
Yes.
Because in my mind, I figured it was just like Tinder for pastors. We're like swipe left, swipe right, swipe left.
Let me tell you what I thought when I came into this job. Now remember, I'm second career. So I had this image that in the conference room there was this map of Iowa. And when it was my year, someone took a dart out, called a district superintendent, and they threw the dart and they said, she's going to go to Elliott, Iowa. No, she's going to go to Grace in Des Moines. No, she's going to West Burlington. I have more appreciation now for all of the district superintendents who were ever a part of any of my appointments, because it's not an easy task. You hold a family and all of their responsibilities in your life and hands together as a group, always calling on God's Spirit to be the leading, guiding wisdom of the decision. Because if pastor goes to church A, they're going to have one experience. If that same pastor goes to church C, their ministry will be totally different. And so you hold a lot of responsibility. And that's where you always have to call upon God's grace, God's wisdom. It always depends on that leading, and that's why it's so important to have the discernment of a group rather than an individual.
Well, that's awesome. I just thank you so much for the work that you do, and if it's a testament to how much we've loved Pastor Matt and Pastor Steve, and I've met Pastor Scott Coburn, and I think this church is going to love him, which means you guys are doing awesome work in your appointments, because our church has benefited greatly from the work that you guys are doing behind closed doors. So thank you so much for sitting down with me tonight, for explaining everything that goes on. You are a rock star, and I'm so excited that Cedar Rapids gets to have you back in local ministry, because you know how to talk, and you're going to be a hell of a preacher down there for them. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jackie Bradford. We are now going to have a reflection song, and this is just your chance to lift up any more additional prayers, to think about all the stuff that Jackie has shared, and to reflect on our own church life and how blessed we've been. So this is your time to listen to the reflection and lift up your own individual prayers. Nice work, COVID. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining us for our worship tonight. Jane had to head down to choir, but a round of applause for Jane Wyckoff for being here tonight. And another big round of applause for your district superintendent, Jackie Bradford, ladies and gentlemen. As you go forth through the week, maybe you think about some of the things that Jackie shared. 109 churches, all this responsibility and the thought and the care and the time she takes behind every decision, behind every prayer. May we put that same amount of thought and prayer behind all the decisions we make just inside of our own church. May we constantly be thinking about ways to do it better, to do it right, and to do it the way God would have us to do it. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone had a great night. We hope to see you next week, and until then, be Christ for one another. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Amen.